Alright, so I was bored. I was bored. I was scrolling through the For You page on this YouTube channel because I've cultivated it. I've cultivated it to bring up all of the topics that I talk about. And I saw this. I saw this title over here. I saw this title. We challenge all evolutionists to watch this video. And if you know anything about me, you know I love a good challenge. So let's get into this.
Imagine walking out on your front porch to get the newspaper one morning and getting the shock of your life. After looking over at your neighbor, Sam, who's sitting and reading his own copy over a cup of coffee, you notice a robot carrying a package down the street. Astounded, you observe that after it drops off the parcel on someone's doorstep and walks away, several more robots appear, marching along, performing the same task. So, after rubbing your eyes in disbelief, you whisper shout to your friend, "Hey Sam, where did all these robots come from? Who do you think made them?" To which he glances at you over the top of his...
I think I see where this is going, and that's not at all how he's presupposing that humans just showed up out of nowhere, and that's not what happened at all.
Glasses with a slightly bored look and says, "Well, I don't think anyone made them. I think they made themselves."
Yeah, once again, he is presupposing that whatever... Because this is an analogy for humans. That's what he's talking about. And first of all, humans didn't just show up out of nowhere. That's not how that worked. Secondly, nobody is saying that humans made themselves. That's not how that works either. Thirdly, the robots may not have made themselves, but they might have been made in a factory by other robots. So, that's just stupid to begin with as well. And my cat is freaking the fuck out again. Shut up! Shut up, Poe. Cat is gonna be the fucking death of me. Okay, this is... I'm already feeling that there's going to be a stupid intro after this.
Now, does this scenario have any correlation to a situation we could relate to in real life?
No, it does not.
Well, yes it does.
No, it does not. Not at all.
Our neighbor Sam is analogous to the materialistic worldview being taught today through the
I fucking told you so.
state-run education and media platforms throughout the West. The story of evolution, presented as science and fact. This materialistic ideology explains everything through a naturalistic lens, no matter how intricate, complex, or marvelously engineered something appears to be. The foregone conclusion, always trotted out, is that whatever is being discussed was somehow produced by nature, with no...
Okay, I see down here, i.e. everything makes itself. No, that's not what evolution is. It isn't humans building themselves cell by cell. That's not what literally anybody is saying. chances are that was taken out of context from something that a real scientist said, just taken out of context without any of the actual explanation.
Appeal to design alone, i.e., everything makes itself. Now, the robots referred to in our story are represented by the incredible motor protein kinesin that's found inside the cells of all living things. And is amazing.
Yeah, I don't know what kinesin is, but I bet he's probably going to misrepresent what it actually is.
As it sounds, they're very much like tiny biological robots walking around inside all your cells.
Okay. What is kinesin? Did I spell that right? Kinesin, a motor protein that helps cells transport molecules and organelles along microtubules. It's a key part of many cellular functions. Okay, so is it just... A kinesin is protein. Eukaryotic cells, kinesins move along. Okay. So he's... I have a feeling he's gonna misunderstand umbrella terms and direct terms. Kinesin is an umbrella term. It looks like it's an umbrella term. A kinesin is a protein belonging to a class of motor proteins found in eukaryotic cells. Sounds to me like a kinesin is a type of motor protein. Active movement of kinesins supports several cellular functions, including mitosis, meiosis, and transport of cellular cargo, such as... Okay. So... it just sounds to me like a red blood cell plus, pretty much. That's what it sounds to me like. It just carries shit and brings it to where it needs to go. Helps out in other aspects. But this is a very simple function. It can in no way be compared to things that are as complicated as robots.
At this very moment. And most of you likely never even knew that was happening before now.
I really hope this music isn't copyrighted. I really, really hope this music isn't copyrighted, because that's going to be really annoying to deal with if it is.
To understand the world
Why is this so loud? I turned it down.
in which kinesin operate, imagine the scenario depicted in Isaac Asimov's classic 1966 sci-fi film, Fantastic Voyage. In it, a group of scientists were shrunk in a submarine and injected inside someone's body to perform microsurgery on him before reverting to normal size.
This is a fairly common sci-fi idea. I don't know why he's intentionally using an example of it from 1966, probably because he wants to bring out all of the points that rely on the fact that our scientific knowledge in 1966 was drastically lacking compared to now, considering it was half a fucking century ago. More than that. It was 53? No, 58? 58. 58 years ago that came out. So, bear in mind, whatever he has to say is probably to do with that.
Now, of course, we haven't been able to shrink ourselves yet, but advances in biochemistry have allowed us to take many fantastic voyages inside cells through the use of electron microscopes. And what we've discovered through them is truly fantastic. Electron microscopy is a technique for obtaining high-resolution images of biological specimens by using a beam of accelerated electrons as a source of illumination. And what's discovered...
That is fucking awesome. I want to point out. That is fucking it's awesome. And honestly, it's an idea that seems kind of obvious in hindsight, but honestly, a lot of things seem obvious in hindsight and are not easy to think of. So that's really fucking cool.
Inside the simplest of living things is astounding indeed. As PhD geneticist Michael Denton described, to grasp the reality of life as it has been revealed by molecular biology, we must magnify a cell 1,000 million times until it's 20 kilometers in diameter and resembles a giant airship large enough to cover a great city like London or New York. What we would then see would be an object of unparalleled complexity and adaptive design. On the surface of the cell, we would see millions of openings like the portholes of a vast spaceship, opening and closing to allow a continual stream of materials to flow in and out.
What do you want to bet he's going to misunderstand multiple of these helpful descriptors that this guy is using? Because a lot of these are descriptors that are supposed to help you visualize what's happening. He's not being literal in what he's saying here.
Now, if we were to enter one of these openings, we would find ourselves in a world of supreme technology and bewildering complexity.
I love Monday.com.
What's Monday.com?
You don't know Monday.com? This is Monday.com. It's a...
Getting pretty fucking sick of having to wait for this.
Now, part of that...
Because before it would give a countdown, and then I would know, like, to click on it when it's done. Now I just have to wait for it to fucking appear.
Bewildering complexity is our topic of conversation, kinesin. Kinesin proteins aren't living things. Rather, they're a family of miniature motor proteins inside living things that transport cargo around inside cells and are remarkably human.
Yay! He did the bare minimum in explaining what a kinesin is. He did the bare minimum. Yay! Should I give him a sticker, guys? Should I give him a sticker for doing the bare minimum?
Humanoid in appearance.
I'm sorry, but if that looks humanoid to you, I'm sorry, but I gotta ask to have some of what you're smoking, dude. That looks absolutely nothing like a human. It literally only has the bare minimum for its function, which is what I assume to be like a small, very simple processor with some storage space and 2 feet to walk. It's literally all it has.
legs that allow them to walk along roadways inside cells, and 2 arms that allow them to carry packages full of important cargo. They're like the postal delivery people, but on a mind-bogglingly microscopic scale. At only 7 billionths of a meter long, they consist of, utilize, and synchronize with an incredibly complex array of microbiotechnology that rivals the most sophisticated feats of engineering that humans have.
Okay, yes, the mechanisms that are at work inside of your body are incredibly sophisticated, but they are also just barely enough to work, and oftentimes are not even enough to work. I want you guys to understand that, yes, the mechanisms of your body are incredibly complex, and yeah, it took millions, billions of years to get to that point, because you gotta understand that the mechanisms in play have been being created and improved over the entire existence of life on this planet. So of course it's going to be complex. Of course it's going to work really well in a very complex manner. But I need you to understand that it barely gets the job done, and sometimes doesn't. Our bodies are often walking a fine line between working and not working every single second. And I need you guys to understand that our human bodies are as far from perfect as you can possibly be. And there is no evidence in the last 6,000 years that they were anything but as flawed as they are now.
Have ever achieved. Now, there are many different types of kinesin and kinesin-related proteins, each with different specifications and functions that have been discovered in various organisms from...
Yes, because when you have something so simple, you need to have a lot of different types so that they can get different jobs done.
To humans. But the following example is a very basic scientific description of what a typical kinesin does and why it does it. Inside life forms, proteins and other needed parts must be delivered to specific places within the cell at precise times. Now, if the needed part is a protein, for example, a manufacturing plant, called a ribosome, receives blueprints for the part from the nucleus. The information...
I want you guys to again realize that a lot of the parts of this description are in essence descriptors that use what your already made knowledge, they use what you have already learned to explain how these things work. And it doesn't explain things perfectly. I want you guys to realize that. So when he inevitably does take any of these descriptors out of context, I need you to understand that the context is far more important than the specific words that are used.
Information is stored in the nucleus on a strand of DNA, but the blueprint is sent in the form of an RNA copy of that section of the DNA. Now, this is obviously a complex coordinated effort, as something must first access the creature's DNA library, unzip it at the exact location needed to copy the specific information required for whatever part is to be manufactured, create a copy of the information for the part, and deliver it to the factory. Afterwards, another organelle in the cell, called the Golgi apparatus, packages the needed part and wraps it in a bag called a vesicle, then imprints the address where the part is to be delivered onto the outside of the parcel. Then a kinesin is summoned, and as mentioned, a typical kinesin has 2 arms on.
Okay, I don't like the word summoned, because that brings out, like, fantastical, magical ideas of what's happening. I don't want you guys to think that way. There are 2 things that this could mean. It could mean that they create a kinesin on the spot, or it could mean that a kinesin is brought there to take what is necessary to the necessary place. I don't like the word summoned in this description, just because it really does make you think magic circle and willed into existence. I don't want you guys to think like that, because it's misleading.
On one end, holding the cargo, the vesicle, and 2 legs on the other end that walk along the roadway called a microtubule. So it picks up the parcel and walks along microtubules in the cell and delivers the parcel where it's needed. Now, if that sounded like a lot of technobabble to you, let's use a more relatable scenario that, although...
I don't like this, because he's setting the groundwork to paraphrase what I assume is a description given by scientists, and I can just smell the misparaphrased bullshit that he is going to spew.
Sophisticated actually pales in comparison to what kinesin regularly do, so that we can better understand the level of complexity at which these micro-machines interact and...
Okay. I don't know about you guys, but from what I understood from that explanation is it's a slightly a slightly complicated jumble of very basic mechanisms that are in no way complicated. Because I want you guys to understand that each of the mechanisms that he just explained are in no way ridiculously complicated. Like, yeah, the way at which they do those things is a bit complicated, but in his explanation that he gave, that I assume he ripped off from some scientist, I'm telling you right now that was in no way super complicated. Like, the words that were used in the way that they were used were pretty complicated. I admit to that, but that just comes with the territory of science. And all of those processes, from what I understand of them, are not that complicated once you understand them.
Operate among the other systems inside cells. Now, imagine a fellow named Joe is working at his job one day when suddenly the machine he's operating breaks down. After doing a diagnostic to determine what happened, he identifies a broken part and makes a call from a cell phone to a local manufacturer in his contact list, requesting the needed component and giving them the part number. The manufacturer takes the order and records Joe's address. However, although they have a list of all the part numbers on hand, they don't have the schematic required to manufacture it. So they send an email to another company that has the copy of all the blueprints for every part.
I'm not a big fan of how much they're using ideas of, like, phone calls and emails. The way that it would work in a human body is the brain would be coordinating electric signals going to each part of the body to get this done.
Part needed in the industry, requesting the needed diagram.
Give me a second. Shut up, Poe! Shut up! He has food, he has water. I really want to fucking punt him, but that would be animal abuse.
So someone there makes a photocopy of the needed section from the master database and delivers it back to the manufacturer. And now, having the instructions to construct Joe's needed part, the factory then constructs it, puts it in a package, marks it with the postal address from its database, and calls a courier company to send a delivery person. After arriving at the factory and acquiring the package, the courier punches in the GPS coordinates and travels along the route plotted to deliver the package to the proper address so that Joe can get on with his day. And voila, mission accomplished. Now, most would agree that the level of complexity, both in the engineering and manufacturing prowess combined with the multi-tiered levels of coordinated communication.
I want you guys to remember that the analogy that he just used, all of the parts involved are macroorganisms. And all of the all of the parts of his analogy, all of them were using ideas that were on a much bigger, larger scale than what is happening in the human body. Because I need you guys to understand that he's about to say that the complexity of his analogy is way beyond what random processes could make. And I'm telling you right now, it's because it's on a much bigger scale. The processes and the things making the processes happen in the human body are on a much smaller, much simpler scale.
Communication and interaction that I just described in my analogy is pretty impressive. Not simply the technology, the communication systems or the manufacturing capability and the databases combining these integrated components, but also the specialized knowledge required at each step along the way. Beginning with Joe performing.
Yeah, the specialized knowledge is... I want you guys to understand that humans need to learn that specified knowledge. The things in our bodies that are doing those things, that's what they're fucking made for from birth. From the second they are created, that is what they are made for. They don't have to learn anything. It's packed into their being.
The troubleshooting analysis of his broken machine, all the way to the admin person's insight about which area of the metadatabase to...
I want you to understand that that's literally just the brain. And yeah, the brain is amazing. It's complex. It's amazing, but you need to understand that it is easily on par with, like, a fucking supercomputer. I need you to understand that because if our brain is a supercomputer, then obviously it's going to be able to handle those processes. Moreover, it is a supercomputer that is specially adapted for these processes and has literally been doing it since it was created in the womb.
Access. Truly, such intricately synchronized problem solving would be considered close to peak level human sophistication.
Peak levels of human technology, yes. But you also have to understand that evolution has been at this game for far longer than humans have been at like making computers and robots and shit.
And of course, in our example, all of these steps were coordinated by intelligent people at every stage. Well, as impressive as that may have been, let's understand that the actual processes involving kinesin are far more impressive than what Joe experienced. And all of the...
No, they're not. They're much, much simpler.
Programming involved was, according to advocates of the story of evolution, supposed to have been generated via random mechanistic processes over millions.
Not random. Yes, random mutation, but non-random selection through selection pressure.
Millions of years, all without any intelligence behind it. However, just think about the implications we've gone over here. The fact that cells are somehow able to know when and where.
Oh my god. Nerves, the brain, electric signals, that's all it is.
A specific part is needed inside of themselves requires an incredibly sophisticated diagnostic system.
No, it does not.
It also requires a database of all of the parts that may be stored and the ability to access them at the appropriate times when the correct, specific communication is activated.
The communication is the brain's electric signals, that's all it is. Oh my god. He's basically, what he's done here is he's taken the base explanation, made an analogy of it that is orders of magnitude more complex. Like, the components in it are orders of magnitude more complex. And then he's just saying that the original idea was way more complex than his analogy without any fucking evidence.
Through the system. That communication then must trigger the access of a blueprint for the needed part and the assembly and packaging of it, along with the recording of some type of address for the kinase.
All very simple, basic processes that are just strung together in a complicated way.
To access and utilize in order to travel to the correct destination. Just as an address is useless to us without some sort of map or GPS system of the location. However,
I'm sorry. Do you think that addresses didn't exist before maps? You realize that people still used addresses before GPSs existed, right? People often, as far as I know, didn't even have maps. They just remembered where to go.
the more we discover, the more mind-blowing it gets. Just the kinesin proteins themselves function with incredible efficiency. A kinesin's motor produces nearly 15 times more power than most man-made engines, and is nearly twice.
There is no way that's true. That's an M. Kinesins. Oh yay, back here. Let's see. Discovery structure, overall structures. One motor consists of two kinesins, heavy chain, fuels which form a protein dimer. It binds two light chains, unique for different cargoes. The heavy chain comprises amino terminal, flexible neck. Okay, it's not really what I'm looking for. Motor domain. Head is a signature of kinesin, and its amino acid sequence is well conserved on various kinesins. Each head has 2 separate binding sites, one for microtubule and the other for ATP binding and hydrolysis, as well as ADP release. Change the conformation, microtubule binding, orientation of the neck linker. Okay, let me put it to you this way. If every kinesin produced, what was it he said, 15 times the energy that, it required 15 times the energy of regular generators, I need you to understand that that would be trillions, quadrillions of times what a generator can produce every fucking second. And you know where that energy would have to come from? Do you know where that energy would have to come from? It would have to come from you eating. So riddle me this. If you can eat, if 2,000 calories a day was enough to power what a generator could, 15 times over times a trillion, why are we not getting our energy for fucking electronics from food? Why do we not have food generators? It makes absolutely no sense.
Just as efficient as a gasoline engine. In addition, kinesin are extremely fast, moving at a rate of 100 steps per second. And if we were to somehow scale up a kinesin to my height, it would move approximately 600 meters per second, over 2,000 kilometers per hour. As Stephen M. Block from the Department of Molecular Biology at Princeton University said,
Okay, before this quote, I want... oh my god, so many explanations. You realize that the reason why smaller things can move faster is because they're not being weighed down as much, right? The whole reason, the entire reason that flies move so infuriatingly fast is because they don't have as much gravitational force to deal with as we do. Yeah, if you scaled up a fly to the size of a human, it would move super fucking fast too.
Scaled up to our own dimensions, a motor with corresponding properties would travel at similar speeds and produce as much horsepower per unit weight as the jet engines of the thrust supersonic car, which recently broke the sound barrier. Incredibly, kinesin also have what would be considered a bypass mode ability that allows them to navigate around obstructions that they might encounter while delivering packages. And similar to how a GPS system recomputing mode will calculate an alternate route should obstructions arise, kinesin have demonstrated the remarkable ability to reroute around obstructions when needed. Of course, this...
It's the brain sending down signals to the kinesin, telling it which way to go. That's all it is.
Not only demonstrates programming of the kind that computer science describes as conditional statements, illustrated by an if-then-else construct common to most programming languages, i.e., if an obstruction, then rewrote. It also means that they can somehow determine alternate routes through some type of program operating in the background that can provide the most efficient path available. And no one...
The brain, like I said, it's as powerful as a supercomputer.
yet knows what exactly that program is or how it works.
Possibly more powerful.
Kinase and proteins also coordinate their efforts should the task at hand be too much for just one of them to complete. Like runners in a relay race, kinesins sometimes hand off their cargo to a fresh worker after bringing it a certain distance. And if the cargo to be transported isn't just a one-man job, so to speak, multiple kinesin will join and pull the load together. And however mundane a simple delivery service may seem, research has shown that kinesin do far more than so-called grunt work. Among their most important functions are the support of cell division and transporting...
Okay, I'm gonna end this video here because he hasn't even said anything about evolution in the slightest, and it's been over half the video, and my cat is going fucking AWOL in the background. I don't know if you can hear that, but it's fucking constant. So I'm gonna go and shut him up. Don't worry, no violence will be used, even though I fucking want to.